Alrighty, well, hey there, everybody. John here once again with Crypto Top 10 to bring you some of the trending articles in the crypto news space. As always, right off the top, thank you to everyone who has subscribed wherever you're finding this content. I really do appreciate it. I enjoy doing it, and I hope you enjoy listening to it. And as always, if you pop on down to the description, you can take a quick peek at it. There should be a link or links to the articles themselves that you can follow so you can read all these for yourself. Some of them are longer reads, and I do just a bit of summary of them just to give you guys the important headlines, but please do your own research. So let's hop into article number 1. We're going to be talking about Coinbase and Cosmos. So Coinbase has today announced support for the staking rewards, and by today I mean September 29th, according to a release. So Cosmos is an ecosystem of proof-of-stake blockchains. Its goal is to create a, quote, internet of blockchains. By using multiple blockchains, it hopes to provide a more scalable alternative to current popular blockchain platforms. Anyways. It's very simple for Coinbase customers to earn these rewards. All they have to do is hold Cosmos or Atom tokens in their account, and they will automatically receive these rewards at a rate of 5% APY. Now, I do want to tell you this. Coinbase does take a nice chunk out of the APY. So if you are not a beginner and you think you can set up staking on yourself to do it, by yourself or with a pool, I would go that route. You will probably earn a higher return on your investment by doing so. But if you're a beginner who's just looking to get in, Coinbase is a pretty good spot for that. They allow users to earn a bit of interest on USDC, one of the stable coins, and Tezos, which is a competitor to Cosmos. They also have that on there available for staking. Places like Binance do as well. So if you are a beginner, Coinbase is a nice user-friendly option. If you know anything more, just do it yourself. You'll earn more money. But these staking rewards, for those of you who don't know, have been likened to interest, like what you would earn from a bank. However, there are a few differences. When you do proof of stake, at times new coins are created, so there is inflation going on for a lot of these protocols. Sometimes with proof of stake, you earn based on the transaction fees from the network. Most protocols right now, it's a combination. You get a cut of the fees and you get new tokens that are created. So you got to be careful with that, because if inflation causes things to causes the prices to go down because there's more of it on the market and demand remains the same, you could actually see a reduction even though you've seen an increase. It's a whole thing. Economics are fun, but that being said, it's kind of like interest, it's kind of like not. Basically, you want the demand to go up as the supply goes up, so that way you make some money and you get some extra Cosmos, Atoms, Tezos, ADA, and all those other popular proof-of-stake protocols going on. But still, nice little tidbit there for you. There's going to be a lot of people who are just lazy and throw it on Cosmos for the extra 5%, and there's nothing to scoff at about that. But if you feel like you can do a bit more than the average bear, go ahead and do so. In a bit of good news, U.S. lawmakers just actually kind of passed a crypto bill over in the House. They're sending it on to the Senate. We'll see what goes on over there. There's a bit higher priorities going on right now, but it's still nice to see that they are doing something. So the Digital Taxonomy Act and the Blockchain Innovation Act, so two separate acts, are actually rolled into a third act, the Consumer Safety Technology Act. All right, 3 acts rolled into one. Sounds like Shakespeare to me, but hey, it was approved by the House of Representatives, and the parts of the bill we're talking about focus on consumer protections, both in protecting the public against token scams and harnessing the blockchain to stop fraud. So, 2 lofty goals that I rather like. Not a lot of concrete changes that we're going to see, but still. So, this Digital Taxonomy Act directs the Federal Trade Commission which is a consumer protection agency, to train up staff and allocate resources to identify and guard against deceptive acts or practices involving digital tokens. It further mandates the agency to produce a report for the House Committee on Energy and Commerce, as well as its Senate counterpart, detailing the efforts to fight such deception and outlining any actions that it has taken. This act frames digital tokens and blockchain as important for American innovation, and it asks the FTC for recommendations to ensure the U.S. remains competitive while limiting abuse. So I really like what they're doing here. Basically, they're like, we're not exactly sure what's going on, but we know it's important. So you guys, you're the agency. Train up your people, hire in who you gotta hire in, get them up to speed, get them in the know, and then give us some recommendations so we know what to do. That's the way to do it. You know, representatives and senators are very busy people, despite what most Americans think of them. They do have very busy lives, very hectic things, and they can't know everything. So by doing this, they're basically farming it out to these bureaucrats so that way they can come back and be like, okay, here's a brief overview of the situation, and here's my recommendation on it, and here are a couple alternate paths you can take, and then they can make their decisions based on that from there. That's a smart way of doing things. That's the way, you know, a lot of governments do it, just because you can't know everything, so you bring in the experts, let them make their recommendations, and then you do what you will. Kind of like going to a couple doctors. If they might have differences of opinion, you can pick the one you like, knowing that at least two educated people took a look at you. So this Blockchain Innovation Act was also rolled into H.R. 8128. It has a similar consumer protection approach. It requires the Secretary of Commerce to consult with the FTC and other agencies to produce a report on the benefits of using blockchain technology to combat fraud. That's a pretty good one. VeChain's got it with like My Car and Verify This and all that stuff. Cardano's starting to work on some things like that. I think Zilliqa's got something going on. Basically, putting things on the blockchain helps secure supply chains and makes it harder to counterfeit goods. So a report that they want on that is how they can then use that. Might be pretty good and go a long way to like making some sort of hybrid dollar type deal where, you know, your physical dollars, the serial numbers could be encoded on the blockchain. It would make it nigh impossible for a counterfeiter to pass a fake bill because it wouldn't show up on the dollar chain. So just me spitballing here. Blockchain technology has an incredible amount of potential for innovation and economic growth. They believe our government needs to support that growth and establish, and I like the wording here, light touch regulations to ensure certainty, protect innovation, stop fraud, and enable its appropriate use for government, businesses, and consumers. I am not anti-regulation. I am not pro-regulation. I like the phrase light touch regulations. You need to have some baseline rules in place to keep the system from running wild and people using exploitative practices to unfairly stifle competition and their fellow consumers. However, you don't want too many regulations or you end up with no innovation, no growth, and the system collapses under its own weight. So a light touch. If you do things right, people won't be sure you've done anything at all. But this study that was mandated by the Blockchain Innovation Act is a starting point. And I agree with that. It's a start, which they got to do it. So it's meant to give government agencies a chance to make recommendations before any bills pass with a regulatory effect. So this is the start, probably sometime after the November elections, probably somewhere early to mid 2021. We'll probably start seeing the results of these acts being passed and these reports being filed, and we might actually start to see the House and the Senate take up legislation to formally regulate some crypto assets. Whew, what a time to be alive, finally. But alrighty, moving right along, Cardano, we'll just touch on it. They recently celebrated their 3rd anniversary of their mainnet launch. Cointelegraph had the opportunity to discuss the future of the project with Cardano Foundation's incoming CEO, their first CEO, Frederick Yearn. So Yearn has not actually assumed the post. He's going to take on his new role sometime before the 1st of November, but he's not exactly sure on the exact date, just that it'll occur before that point. He's currently finishing up his time at his current role. He heads the digital financial services for a multinational network. That's where they pegged him from. He actually does have a pretty good pedigree behind him. They did make a good choice. His belief, and this is probably going to be his fundamental strategy as CEO, is that there's a natural sense of prejudice against open source public blockchains, which he refers to as the trust gap. He goes on to say that the average life expectancy of crypto projects tend to be low. I'd agree with that. This has only been exacerbated by the many crypto-related scams, which has created an unbecoming reputation for much of the space in the eyes of corporate users. If a major company chooses to rely on a blockchain for one of its core use cases, it needs to be sure that the chosen protocol will continue to receive proper maintenance for the foreseeable future. This lack of surety around the promise has led to what he calls this trust gap. I rather like it. I agree with him. You know, you hear a lot about scams, and that can put a lot of people off. He also did say when you have an open project like this one, Cardano, to convey this certainty to the larger corporations that we are going to be around in the next 10, 20, 30 years, so you can build on us for the long term, that we are sound both in terms of finances, but also in terms of teams and people. So he's definitely pushing for the business-to-business relations aspect. It's a viable strategy. You can get those big name partners. It adds a lot of hype to your name. They're hoping they can use that to parlay into everyday users like you and me. Not gonna lie, I've mentioned on the channel many times, and I will again, I do hold a decent chunk of Cardano, what I consider to be a large chunk of Cardano. And I'm very excited for the long term of this project. I think it should be worth 20 cents right now. I don't care what any of you say. But that's just me. But I'm really interested to see what Yearn manages to do long term. But let's hop on over to the next thing. All right. Well, hopping over to talk about Bitcoin. It's got some interesting stuff going on with it. So investors are increasingly holding Bitcoin as a store of value. I'd agree with that. The Bitcoin supply held for over 1 year hits its highest level since 2010, so a decade prior, and worlds ago at 63.5%. Bitcoin has now stayed above 10K for the longest time period at 64 days in a row as well. The team at Coinmetrics released their weekly State of the Network report in which they highlighted these facts. The store of value is a pretty good indicator, if you ask me. More and more people are holding on to it. As we talked about in yesterday's video, Grayscale just bought up to the point that they have 2.4% of the circulating supply of Bitcoin, and at that level they're probably not going to be selling it for a while, so I actually expect this number will continue to increase. There's a lot of people who don't want to sell their Bitcoin until it hits that magic number in their head, be it 40,000, 50,000, 100,000, 1 million, whatever it is. So that increasingly leaves a smaller and smaller cut for new users to buy up, which I really do hope will lead to parabolic increases for us all here soon. And then the other milestone, which was Bitcoin trading above $10,000 for 64 days in a row. The previous record was 62 between December of 2017 and January of 2018 during the last crazy bull run. The milestone was highlighted yesterday by Anthony Pompliano via the following tweets, which I'm not going to read, when the record was 63 days above 10K for all you Bitcoin haters out there. I would say, while the market is in a very different spot than it was the last time Bitcoin stayed above this mark for this long, it is definitely, in my opinion, a more stable market where I don't see us dipping below 10K in the next week. Knock on wood. So Bitcoin is very much on a path to close out Q3 on a positive note, despite the rocky market that we had in the first couple weeks of September. If Bitcoin does this at its current level of 10,675, I would close Q3 with 17.3% in profit. At the time of writing, several events related to the U.S. elections and the state of the global economy could push Bitcoin's fortunes in either direction for either higher highs or another retracement. For example, House Democrats, the United States, are musing, I believe they did pass a different stimulus bill that could guarantee all U.S. residents another round of the $1,200 stimulus checks. If the bill is passed, both Bitcoin and the stock markets will react positively to this news, as they did last time. Additionally, any other negative news related to the coronavirus, any increases in lockdowns or shutterings, could also affect things at the close of Q3. However, I don't think they will affect it very much. Bitcoin is a store of value and a hedge against the volatility of the stock market. And once people finally get that through their heads, it's not going to matter what the stock market does. We will do what we do. Alrighty. Something to touch on just so you're aware. Andre Krone, everyone knows, the creator of Yearn Finance, he just revealed that a hacker exploited a vulnerability on one of his projects called Eminence, and they made off with about $15 million, though he ended up being able to recover about $8 million of it. So what went down? Well, he explained that Eminence is a game project that he's still developing. As part of his personal process of testing his products on the Ethereum mainnet, he deployed the smart contracts related to Eminence. Later, the developer learned that the $15 million was deposited into the contracts that were intended just for testing. So while he had them up to just kind of test things out, someone went and put some money into them. So the $15 million came from people who rushed to buy the platform's token, EMN. It's likely that these buyers wanted to get ahead of other investors, acquire the token, wait for it to rally, and resell it on the market. It's a pretty common technique, as being first in DeFi is crucial. Krone called the attack a pretty simple one. The exploit itself was pretty simple. You mint a lot of EMN at the tight curve, burn EMN for one of the other currencies, and then sell the currency for EMN. So they just pulled an old switcheroo. After the attack, $8 million was sent to Krone's Yearn account. The developer stated that he will return the funds to the affected users. It's not all $15 million, but people will be able to get some of their money back, which is, better than nothing. Idiots. However, Krone has received threats about this and will therefore let the return process be handled by Yearn's treasury, so that way he doesn't have to touch the money and he can feel a little bit safer about everything. Krone updated his followers via Twitter in the last hours. In his recent publications, he confirmed that he will continue working in Eminence because of his attachment to the project and his meta-economy characteristics. In addition, the developer stated that he will continue to use this method of testing smart contracts on Ethereum's mainnet and said that many of these will have vulnerabilities. Obviously, they're practice smart contracts. They're works in progress. For this reason, he did ask his followers not to test the products until there is an official Medium article. Don't just throw your money into things, or it could end up getting stolen, and you will probably not get your money back. He did say this: "Thank you for the feedback. I have read the two primary criticisms, and both seem to be related to the public nature of his Twitter account and the public nature of my Ethereum address. Going forward, I will not use either for new projects I am working on." Makes sense. People saw it on his Ethereum address that they knew was attached to him, and they jumped on it. So he'll use a different one and try to keep things a little bit more quiet. Makes sense to me. Should eliminate any problems while allowing him the flexibility to test things out the way he wants to test them out. Crypto is a risky business, and you should not be throwing money into projects when you have no idea what they are, regardless of whose name is attached to them. So, rounding things off today, a think tank survey was put out showing that the mainstream lags in crypto understanding. Well, no dip. So, the Royal United States Institute and the Associated Association of Certified Anti-Money Laundering Specialists collaborated with YouGov, conducting a survey on authorities' perceptions of the crypto industry. The endeavor questioned authorities worldwide, ultimately receiving 566 different insights. I mean, that's enough to draw conclusions, but that's kind of a small pool if you ask me. The survey reveals a number of results, including disagreement on the safety of crypto asset use. Mainstream entities polled see the risky asset class as such. Crypto industry participants polled also see the asset class as risky, but felt that they possess the knowledge, skills, and tools to bring possible threats down to a benign level. Benign and a half. So yeah, everyone agrees that crypto is risky. It's just those involved in the industry know what they need to do to minimize the risks to a level that they feel safe with. The survey mentions the unease from both camps on the topic of nefarious crypto use, anticipating further guidance and regulation. I agree with them. We're definitely going to get more of that down the line, and it's an important thing for us to have just the right level. So the findings also reported that respondents predict both an increased role for cryptocurrency in day-to-day payments in the future, as well as a decrease in cryptocurrency use for illicit activities, especially compared to how it is viewed now. I agree with that. We'll definitely see a decrease as things get more user-friendly with these projects. They get more ingrained in our day-to-day lives. The familiarity with them increases, so less mistakes are made. And our government's tracking and reporting tools increase as well. But still, the study did tell me exactly what I already assumed, so it's good to know that I'm not insane. But that will do it for some of the trending articles in the crypto news space. As always, my name is John with Crypto Top 10, and let's take a look at the top 10 coins by market cap over here on CoinMarketCap.com. Biggest winner for the day still seems to be Binance, 4.85%. That's 2 in a row. Good for them. Biggest loser in the top 10. Well, Cardano clipped back into the top 10, creeping up over 10 cents. It's up 23% on the week, but down 2% on the day, so it's losing there. Now, biggest winner of the day is Storj. STORJ, it's up 16% on the day. Midas Touch close behind, with the biggest loser being Yearn Finance, fluctuating. Aave is not too far behind it. Again, DeFi coins in the top positions. But hey, that will do it for today. If you've made it to this point and you haven't subscribed, well, you might as well. You get to hear my sultry tones every weekday. Or at the very least, even if you can just only tolerate my voice, you can hear some articles and stay up to date on what's going on in the crypto news space. That being said, have a great one.